Way to start off.
Right?
Chargers. We're live. We're definitely live at this point. Wednesday night golf show. You know the drill from Awesemo.com. We're ready to have some fun. Myself, Ben Raza, here with Jason Roslin. Safeway Open, Napa, California. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We got some weather. We're going to talk about the course, answer your questions. C-Chat is already fired up. What is going on, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I can't complain other than I'm going to complain about one thing, and that's I really don't like having to deal with weather. I like to just throw it out completely most weeks, and I didn't last week, and I got pretty owned. Right when that bell rung on Thursday afternoon for them to blow the horn for those guys to get off the course, I knew I was done. I should have just stopped. I should have just moved on to this week on Thursday, to be honest.
Yeah, this new cut rule makes it really, really tough to get 6-6 through. They could have made it top 90 at ties, and I wouldn't have had a 6-6. It was not the cut rule last week. It was the fact that all my golfers were horrendous and Matt Jones withdrew, which was annoying. But you know what? It's the swing season. We're going to have some of that. This is a little stronger field. We're starting to inch up. There were some names. I was kind of surprised to see them. Your boy Cantlay. We got some others. So that is pretty exciting. But, man, I guess right off the top, looks like we're going to have some weather possibly again.
So this time, and what I should have done last week is I should have seen that it came with storms, because when it comes with storms, that obviously impacts play. Wind doesn't impact play if it doesn't come with storms, right? And it looks like we're just going to have wind here. That means that they're going to play through it. So it is something we should talk about. In the wind, I mean, we're talking about 10 plus more miles per hour than we were last week, which is like 20, 25. We're talking 30, 35 at least tomorrow afternoon, or starting tomorrow mid-morning.
It's true. So right off the top, it looks like if you get out tomorrow morning, you're going to have the best conditions. And as you said, last week we saw a delay. We are not going to see that, barring something, miraculous. This is just straight wind. And it does look like, man, you play in the afternoon tomorrow, you're going to have kind of a tough deal with it. But I do.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I don't know if I'm sure you probably remember Louis Oosthuizen I think it was St. Andrews back maybe in 2016, standing over a putt and the ball blew 5 feet away from him. That's the last time I remember play being called for just wind. Just wind. And that's the only time they will is when the ball is oscillating on the green after it's placed back down. So I do think it holds a conversation, especially when you have number 1 and 2 on the board going off at 12:45 when it's supposed to be legitimately blowing 35 plus miles per hour on the gusts.
We're going to have to see, because that certainly looks problematic, kind of to say the least. And that's why, those early tee times, it's tough because you see the frustration last week. Sometimes it doesn't pan out, but at the same time, this looks a little more secure in the sense there may not be a delay. I do want to quickly say, as we always do, Fantasydraft sponsoring the show. We do appreciate them a ton, and they are once again running a huge NFL contest, rake-free over there, which is gigantic. The only place where you can play rake-free daily fantasy. You guys know the drill. 100% of the entry fees are paid to contest winners. Sign up at fantasydraft.com, referral code AWESEMO, and you get a free 7-day trial membership. So we suggest people doing that, not just for golf, but get over there, get some easy NFL overlay, because they usually do not fill. But so I guess, again, I know we talked just about the weather a couple seconds ago. Are you really altering your player pool, or are you just going to do where, you allocate a little more percentage to some of those early tee time stacks?
So last week, I think is a good indication of what I would like to do, which is if I can find my core set of guys from the morning wave or from the AM PM wave, the morning wave tomorrow, I think that's great. And I think that's probably going to be the best way to go. However, it could change in a hurry. I mean, last week I sat with Griot. I talked on the show a lot about Griot. He was 600 or 500 after day one. He looked like he was in tied for fourth. And I'm like, oh, this is exactly how we wanted it to go. And I think I overdid it there. I think most of my $500 teams ended up with that. I believe it was PM AM. No, it was AM PM again last week, and then the PM got blown. I ended up getting crushed because of it. So I think it's tough for me sitting in this situation now because this one looks like it's a pretty clear indication that they're going to have worse weather. So it's like, do I want to go down the rabbit hole again? The nice thing is that there are a couple of guys that are playing in the morning that I was already high on before the tee times came out. So that's what I'm trying to stick to. If I was already high on them, I'm just staying with them and maybe giving them a little bit more. But guys like, I will be honest, guys like Harold Varner, who I was really high on, I'm a little bit more nervous because he's going off at 11:30. I'm a little bit more nervous about guys like him.
I think that's really the way to approach weather. I think that the smart way to do it, evaluate the slate as if there's no weather. And then guys that you are already on, if they're in the right wave, great. Fire them up maybe a little more. Guys that are in the worst part of it, maybe you taper it down just a bit. But to just say, you know what, I'm eliminating all these guys, I think that's too radical. And to not look at it at all, I think is unwise because this is a situation, one of the other things in California, a lot of times those guys that go out really early, it's like 40 degrees. That's not the case tomorrow. They are not going to have a problem. The ball will travel just fine. So, Benny On, who's going to be popular, but he's the first man off. And I think he's going to be one of the best plays on the board. He's got everything going for him right at 7 a.m. out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting, start the tilt real early. But for us, at least it's 10 o'clock. So it's not. We've been able to get into our day a little bit and at least make the morning rounds, if you will, before Benny On tees off and misses his first 6-footer for birdie on one.
Correct.
But it's been going better for him on the putter side, and we can talk about that in a little bit. Wanted to get your thoughts, though, on the golf course itself. And we don't talk too much about the golf course here because, we're the Wednesday night show. Now, if you're the only show that you catch all week, then, yeah, sure, we give you a little bit. But certainly, I'm sure everybody knows most, if not all they need to know about the course. But what are you doing in terms of a course that's 7,100 yards, which we know is rather short, for the PGA Tour, but we see guys of driving distance focus. Kevin Tway is one of the worst in driving accuracies on tour, wins last year. Brendan Steele, similar kind of thing. Does that mean we really should be looking at driving distance in maybe a one-off scenario, going up against a guy like Abraham Answer versus Kevin Streelman, for example?
So it is a short course, but as you just talked about, the driver can be a weapon here. There's par fives to take advantage of. It is tree line, so I don't want to make the impression that you can not get in trouble, but at the same time, Phil Mickelson excels here. So I also want to say that clearly you can get out of trouble because we know he's not hitting the fairway. And I think, it's basically like anything. To an extent, you can get away with it. If you're really spraying, you're going to have trouble. And if you don't want to be aggressive off the tee, that's going to be a certainly worthwhile proposition for you. If you want to lay back, you're going to keep it in play. You're going to have some longer irons, but that's all right. The course is not one where you're really going to be that behind. And then we have the Polo greens, which, we could do a whole show on that.
Yeah.
We talked about this in our premium Slack just before. I don't go crazy looking at the splits. I think most often with POA, it's a great equalizer, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, absolutely. And some guys do favor bet, and that's just because of where they grew up. Where I live now in Tampa, Florida, it's all bet. You cannot get anywhere else. It's just grass can't grow any other way. Now, north, I had a nice POA blend, and yeah, of course, the surfaces are very different to putt on, but putters are going to putt. It doesn't matter, what surface they're on. I don't look too much into it. I think it's a little bit more noise, but again, in certain situations, there are a handful of golfers that I will say, okay, yeah, they are just simply better on one surface than the other. Byung-Hyun Ahn actually is one of those guys. Doesn't change my eyes at all. I think he's in great form. He's been simmering now for a couple of months, close to that win. I think he's really close. Does it change at all when you look at a stat like that? That was pointed out by Coolers on our premium Slack chat. He is one that it looks like it matters.
Again, it's similar in the weather where it's like that's not ideal. It's something I'm going to consider, but I'm also not going to say, you know what, I loved Benny On. Oh, great, he can't put on POA. I'm omitting him from the player pool. That's not happening.
Yeah.
So he has some other things working for him. A, he's playing phenomenal. B, he's in the right tee time. So this is a guy that's made strides with the putter. I'm used to seeing him, not carry himself, certainly with the flat stick. If he can hold his own, I'm not weighing it too much, but of course, I wish that he's had some more success than we've seen on POA.
For sure. All right, so I think we can move to the top of the board. A really interesting discussion for Justin Thomas. Let's talk about him for a couple of minutes. We'll put tea time aside, right? Let's just make believe it's not going to be 35-mile-an-hour wind, and he's terrible in the wind in adverse conditions. I would know from the British Open experience I had a couple of years ago with him. So let's put that aside. Let's talk about the thing that made waves around Twitter, his press conference today. It looks like maybe he's a little tired. Maybe he's a little sick. Well, here's the thing. Let's talk about this, right? He had a melanoma scare. And if you guys haven't caught up with that, if this is the first time you're hearing about it, basically what happened was he went into his primary care for his annual physical, saw something that didn't look good, went to a dermatologist, ended up being some type of melanoma under the skin, removable and treatable. Obviously, doesn't have to go through anything. But he's had stitches in until 2 days ago. He was able to play, but obviously he's not able to swing Justin Thomas type swings and not rip out his stitches. So that actually concerns me a little bit. If he was priced at 9,500 and this was, say the Farmers Insurance, which is a really strong field, and he wasn't the best player, I'd be more up to play him. But at 11,600, he's got to win the tournament for that salary to pay off.
Oh,
do we expect him to win the tournament with where he is?
I saw the presser, and those things tend to get overblown, but it did look a little off. I'm not going to lie. And he's a guy that, yes, when he gets going, he's unstoppable. I think we see that. But I really liked his presser. And for the reasons, I thought he was pretty honest, and he captured what we have to attack. He said, sometimes I come to the first tournament of the year and I'm kind of already dreading it. This is not the case this year. I'm really refreshed. Yep. But I know there's going to be some rust, and I know I have to knock that off. I haven't played in a month and a half. So that's really what we're dealing with. He's going to be working through some things on the fly. It doesn't mean that he can't bring his A game, but more likely than not, you're probably going to, see him be a little sloppy here and there. So I still think that upside, you're talking big field MME. Yeah, I think you want some Justin Thomas. But when I actually got to building today, I found myself more paying down at the top.
Yeah, and I was really heavily thinking about going to Justin Thomas in, say, the $500 or the $200 single entry, because it looks like ownership is trending down for him and for Cantlay, and after that press conference, and people see it. However, I just don't know if, having not played, it's not played in a PGA tournament, he hasn't played golf in about a month. Now, he's gotten back on the course and been able to practice and stuff, but it's not where he normally would be before coming to a tournament. So I will say that the injury scare, the health scare, it's not an injury scare, the health scare, that's actually concerning only because of the stitches in his what is it, his calf, I believe?
Yeah, it's his calf.
It's a relatively important muscle in golf. I mean, all of the muscles there are. So I'm a little apprehensive to play him at 11,600 in this field. I think he's the best player clearing away in this field, but I'm a little nervous about where he is. And I've come off of him in the higher dollars. I still think that 10% in an MME, if that's where he ends up, I think it would be silly not to try and get a little bit more than that, because it's Justin Thomas in a field that doesn't have Rory McIlroy in it.
No, well said.
Or Brooks Koepka, yeah.
He's on the wrong side of the wave, too. So it's not a fun build. Pretty uncomfortable if you go there. But again, if you're doing a portfolio base where you got a lot of options, I think it's unwise to not include a guy that when he's on, he's going to blow a field like this away. So it's as simple as that. But I found myself, someone like Hideki, he's cheaper. He's on the right side of the draw. Even Ben-Yan, if you want to go very balanced, you could start with him. There's numerous options. The guy that I wanted to ask you about, then we work down a little. What did you do with Adam Scott? Because I can just never get him right. I don't even pretend to know what to expect from him.
Yeah, and it looks like he's coming in mid-ownership, about 15%. It is very spread out, it seems, this week, I will say, on the AwesomePlus.com, which has been very, very good with the ownerships throughout the last year. As Matsuyama first, Scott comes down about number 5 or 6 on the board. See, it's tough. This seems like a course that, with his style of kind of that long plus accurate off the tee, not overly long, right? Just decently long, above average. I mean, on tour last year, I believe he was top 50 as I scroll over here. I apologize. Yeah, he was 54 last year. So, that's about 5 or 6 yards behind Kevin Tway. That's going to hit the same clubs in. Yeah, I do like Adam Scott. I think he comes with a lot less risk than Justin Thomas. He doesn't have stitches in his calf. He comes with less risk than Cantlay because Cantlay is terrible in the wind. Worse than Justin Thomas in the wind. And that's what really makes me nervous about Cantlay this week. Even though he's my boy, I'm really nervous about him having to play in 30-mile-an-hour on Thursday. I mean, it could be brutal. Although his around the green game has really improved, that you and I have chronicled a lot, so I think that could help him. But I think he inherently, both Scott and Matsuyama come with a lot less risk, and I think ownership is going to start to trend that way.
Absolutely, yeah. They're playing together for what it's worth.
Yeah.
With Sebastian Munoz, the champ from last week. But, and Chad is talking about this friend of the show that I can't believe I'm saying this, but it seems that Scott uses the short putter in the wind. How that's possible is beyond me, but the last time he used the short putter, he said it was wind related. So that's something I don't even know, but it just shows the complications we have to deal with this guy. It's putter roulette with him. I do like some things about his game. I do lean decky if I had to pick one or the other, though.
Yeah, I do too. And I think the results recently probably tipped maybe a little bit to Adam Scott, but I think most people are in the same boat as you and saying, you know what, I'm not dealing with Adam Scott missing 3-footers this week. Although Hideki Matsuyama might be right next to him missing the 3-footers as well. That's the problem.
Both very live to miss many 3-footers, but that's what we got to deal with. One more wild card, and again, I'm talking mostly guys in the early wave because I think that's what you want to look at. So we've seen Bryson already in the swing season, and he was not good. He missed the cut at Greenbrier, and it was just uneventful. He was the highest priced guy, I think, that week. Now we get him, he's 6th, 7th price, depending on where you're looking. Any interest there in kind of a going against the grain? Because I think most people are either going paying up, or if they go balanced, they start with Benyon, not Bryson.
Yeah, you got those two guys, Bryson DeChambeau sitting at 9.9, and then you got Molinari, who nobody likes to ever play, especially at these prices. I like both of them. They're both playing together. I like them as a really good against the grain stack, playing in that morning wave. Molinari, 7,100 yards. This should, easily be able to fit his driving distance, which came in, 140th last year or something. He should be fine here with that. So, yeah, Molinari has been great. He came in 14th last week at out in Great Britain or wherever it was, right? Wentworth.
That's the one thing. Do you find it kind of weird that he's flying from Wentworth to California? That is a little odd. That was my only concern with him.
Yeah, that's a 12-hour trip, a little different than, him coming back to Florida or something, right? It's another whole entire cross-Atlantic flight. Well, not quite cross-Atlantic, but basically the same distance. It makes me maybe a little nervous, but he's probably flying on NetJets or whatever and drinking champagne.
He's not flying coach.
No, he's likely not flying coach. It was impressive. He played well last week, and it seems like this could be actually a similar type of course that Wentworth was. You got to keep it relatively in the fairway, but length can really help you, as we saw with Jon Rahm and Rory McIlroy on the weekend. So, I don't mind Molinari DeChambeau as an against the grain play. We haven't seen Molinari really do anything since the Arnold Palmer, though. When I was on him for that win. He's really hurt me since then, because I've tried to play him at these 5% ownerships. It just hasn't really gone well. Are you interested at all this week, or are you staying away per usual?
So I think what you said is a really interesting strategy. Pairing them up, different starting point. We've talked about on this show, I like to pair up guys in a tee time when it makes sense. I don't do it just to do it.
Yep.
But you got a guy in Bryson who, again, it's not been good, but I still trust the upside there. And Molinari, who is the poster boy for gaining off the tee without distance. And that can serve you here. You keep it in play, like you mentioned with Wentworth. Keep it in play off a tree line course. You can attack with long irons because he's going to be laying back, obviously. He's not a bomber by any stretch of the imagination. They are not the priority for me in the morning, but when I'm leaning to a certain wave, you're going to get to maybe guys who were on the fringe. They start to gravitate more towards your core. Maybe not in it, but if they were in the PM wave, they would not make the cut for me. They may find their way onto some of my teams just by default of where they sit.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree with that sentiment. So, what are you doing with guys like Colin Morikawa, who has basically gotten the likes of everyone now in the biz? But I've seen his ownership go from anywhere from 25% to the 14% that Osmo has him projected. He's in the 1245 pairing with Cantlay and Mickelson, so he's they're throwing him right into the mix there, right? Yeah, obviously the dogs like Colin Morikawa. I didn't even know my dogs were around. I guess they are, though.
Nothing wrong with that.
What are you doing, Morikawa? First, two-part question. Where do you think his ownership actually comes in, one? And two, what are you going to do with him? We know nothing about him playing in wind and adverse conditions.
So it's one of the guys where ownership, or what I can try to perceive, is going to dictate, because I think that there is a reasonable chance that we don't know the full picture with him. Not that he's not going to be good, because he is good. I'm not saying that. Guys won, really good at the 3M, really good at the John Deere. Then he slowed down. Maybe he ran out of gas. Maybe it was the stronger fields. So we don't know. He is a California guy. I believe he went to Cal, I want to say.
Yep, he sure did.
That should help a little if he's seen some POA in his life more than others. But being in the other wave, I'm not really there, to be honest. I get it. You can't fit them all. And Morikawa is someone that it's just tough for me to get there. If I was making more teams, maybe as a one-off against Ben Yon, because I think he's going to be massively popular. Yep. But I'm not getting that fancy, so not for me this week.
Yeah, and he was the first guy that I wrote up on my Make the Cut article that covers cash game stuff, because if you look at his stats, he hasn't missed a cut yet. He hasn't had a week where he's gained less than, I think, a stroke and a half ball striking, except for the last start. We saw a little bit of regression, which was going to happen. He was gaining 3.5 strokes ball striking per round for a little while, so we knew that was going to happen. I love his swing. I love his tempo. It's very, very similar to Patrick Cantlay. They both have very fluid swings, both controllable, but Cantlay struggles in the wind, and I'm curious to see what Morikawa does as well. I have found myself going to Ben On instead, a little bit probably more so than I thought at the beginning of the week, but 30-mile-per-hour winds on Thursday is enough of a shot and a half, if not 2 shots.
It could be bad. We don't know, but if it gets going, and as you said, they're not going to have the delay out, where they stop it and they get a reprieve. That's not going to happen. And it's, we did just have a question from Chad, and it's kind of interesting. Someone asked, can you avoid some of the wind if you go actually to the latest tee times and maybe hope that it dies down there? I think the answer this week looks like no. It looks like it's going to be pretty bad all afternoon. Now, those guys on Friday, they'll be the last tee times, I believe, in the morning wave. I'm probably not going to try to do that. I get the sentiment of sometimes you can get those guys who are out on the course really late, but I think this time it's just going to progressively get worse. Robbie Shelton comes to mind. Yeah, he is way down there in terms of he is with Batia at 1:35 p.m., their time. And there's a guy named Byron Meth. Okay, that's outrageous. That's a whole different story for another time.
We'll talk about that later. I got some notes on him. We'll talk about that later.
I'm probably not going to get too fancy and try to chase those guys. Now, if I'm not considering wind on a team, maybe I get to Shelton, but not because I think the wind's going to die down when he plays.
Yeah. Again, it's tough. And, of course, when you get sustained winds of 20 and gusts of 30, that's when we're talking about it. It could be a factor. So I think it's a perfect time to bring up, because we're at the pricing section here, 2 guys that are likely to either make or likely break the Fanduel slate. It's obviously already broken the way people are making their lineups. I don't know. FanDuel, I feel like it's DraftKings more that kind of throws these curveballs at us. FanDuel, I think they must have just totally missed this. Yeah, Ryan Moore is the 12th highest priced golfer on DraftKings, and he is min priced on FanDuel this week.
Yep.
He's in the later tee time. but he's still going to be owned probably 50% or more. Do you fade him?
So I think that if you're playing in a large field tournament or something like that on FanDuel, you just play him and because in something like that he'll probably be at 40-50%. Let half the field have to get another guy through. But I'll say this, and this is a question for you. I know you play some of these. Say you're playing in like a 25-man higher stakes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 4% per guy. I think
100% owned.
I think he could be like 92%. In a situation like that, I would tend maybe to fade him because he is in the late tee time, and we all know that golf, if you get cut, it doesn't matter what you're priced. It's a big problem. So in a smaller field, if I'm really in a smaller field with an aggressive payout, obviously, like if you're in a double up, don't be stupid.
Yeah, just play it. Yeah,
but if you're talking, something where I might be able to be the only non-Ryan Moore team, I'm willing to take that risk. Most likely it burns you and you're playing a little uphill. But man, you tell me that I'm the only guy out of 20 people, you're getting some good bang for your buck there.
Yeah, that's honestly, we don't, I'll say we align a decent amount, but not every single time. Here we definitely align. That's legitimately exactly how I've built out my lineups. My $300 lineup did not have a minute. My $8 lineups had a minute. Then I saw the tee time, and I've come down. It was at about 50% where I thought the field was going to be. And now I'm coming down a little bit because of the tee time. And just because if he ends up getting even higher owned, I think there might be a little bit more leverage on the other side. However, he's a min-priced guy. You put him in there, and you can go and get Matsuyama, Im, DeChambeau, Molinar. Like, you can go and get all of them, right, for the most part.
You can make a lineup with him that's like 60,000 on Draftkings, and on Fantasydraft would cost
$1 million,
20,000. Like it's ridiculous. But again, it's one of those things. If he gets cut, you could be the only person with an opportunity for 6 of 6. Not that he even gets it, just a chance. So that's a risk I'm going to look to possibly take in specific fields. More often than not, you just want to take advantage of what is FanDuel's. I don't know what they're doing because that's just a misprice.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing either, man. It literally makes no sense. Scott Piercy is the other one. He's not min price, but he's less than his DraftKings price. Same boat for you, because you know that a lot of people are going to just go Piercy more.
So yes, again, he's in the late tee time. It's another guy, and this is why sports betting is a totally different concept of line shopping. That's mega important. But here you also want to price shop of some of these golfers where certain sites, you can attack them for much cheaper than others. And Scott Piercy is another guy there. He's a little all over the map stats-wise. We know traditionally really good ball striker. It's not as consistent as you would think. Someone like Griot, he's in the wrong wave, but this is a guy that's won at Silverado before. Can't putt, but that's to be expected. Maybe Poen negates that. Griot's someone I did go to get in the wrong wave this week, so like him a bit.
Yeah, now I was going to ask you about that. I was on him huge last week. I'm going to be on him again this week a little bit. His ball striking is so good that I expected to weather some of the storm that he's going to face. And was he the top guy for you in that afternoon wave because of his price?
He was. He is one of the few guys. So you mentioned HV3, who I do like. Fratelli is also there. Now, Dylan Fratelli, you don't see this. He gained 11 strokes with the approach last week. That's uncharted territory. That's dangerously insane. So take that for what it's worth. But Griot is someone you don't find many guys that are as consistent with the ball striking. On the flip side, you don't find many guys that are as consistently awful with the putter. I've never seen really anything like it. But, man, I felt pretty comfortable, even in the wrong wave, of going to get him on a lot of my teams.
Yeah, I will say it's tough because Harold Varner is a guy that I really liked this week. Dylan Fratelli started off really sluggishly last week, and all of a sudden – he ended up in the top 10, or I might have even been top 5 come Sunday. Played out of nowhere. He's going to be really popular this week in the afternoon wave. Does that concern you a little bit? Same with Brunson Burgoon, he's actually in the morning wave. But I'll give you three names. Sorry. Brunson Burgoon, Harris English, and Dylan Fratelli, all priced right next to each other. All legitimately, when you scroll, you're going to pass through all three of them. They're all coming in off of great form. Do you play any of the three coming in at kind of chalky for these guys that we haven't heard from? Well, Fratelli, he won last year, but Burgoon, English, nothing last year. Fratelli, nothing other than the win.
It's tough because, that's the times, and it's of course very difficult. The times to play them are when they're extremely low owned and showing no form, and boom, you hit them. Harris English is a guy who came out of nowhere. Now, I don't know how you really got on it. I certainly did not, but it does feel a little chasey. I'm not gonna lie. Now, Burgoon is someone on fire with the irons. He did not hit a lot of fairways last week, and that concerns me a bit. But I did find myself going there in certain spots. Now he's in the right wave. And we'll see. And I want to just point out, in our premium Slack, one of the sharpest DFS players just around in general, Brick, did point out, and when you check this wind, try to check a lot of different sources because, you like anything, meteorologists, they're going to have a lot of different things. If you go to Wind Finder, you got the super forecast, you got the other thing, you can use the other weather stations, and he's talking about that in there. And I think that is a good thing because depending on where you look, you may see some kind of different things, and that can draw you to different conclusions.
No, it sure can. And anytime you make a bet on playing a wave over or one wave over the other, you're gambling. And I've seen it come out both sides, obviously, because when you're gambling, it's going to be there's going to be a result. So more often than not, I will say more often than not, weather doesn't even come into factor. However, if you gamble correctly and the weather is exactly how you plan it out to be, you have a significant leg on the field, a huge edge. It's likely if you've put together a decent lineup and you've gotten the weather correctly, you could be in for a profitable week. However, if you guess wrong like I did last week, it would, basically – I think it was my worst return yet in the $8 or $5 that I've had all year. Now, I will also say that, and I'll talk to the guys at FC. FC was down last week. Fantasy Crunchers was down for golf last week. He was on vacation or something. So it's like, all right, the worst MME that I had all year was when these guys are gone. What? Dave, if you watch the show, man, come on, dude. You owe me a dinner or something for that. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just kind of coincidental that I guessed wrong on the weather and Fantasy Crunches was down for the week. So hopefully we won't have too much of that going on this week. However, I wanted to ask you about one guy, Charles Howell III.
Okay.
I know it's kind of a random one, but at 8,100, he's on the right side of the wave. Nobody wants to play him. He's going to be like 7% owned. Are you interested at all? I mean, we saw a pretty good form throughout the latter part of the year. Tailed off at the end, but
yeah. So CH3 is always, I think, and I don't want to say wrongly, but he gets kind of not a motto, but kind of the persona of he's a cash guy. He doesn't have a lot of variance. He makes a bunch of cuts. Play him early in the year, then he tapers off. Last year, I thought was more impressive than we usually say. And this is a guy, he's going to gain off the tee pretty consistently. Doesn't have an issue. In fact, likes POA. So Safeway should suit him, and he's played here. Let's see, I got it right here. Yeah, played here a bunch. The results are nothing really anyway. He's got some of it was actually not when it was at this course, but yeah. I have no problem with him. The price didn't entice me, but it didn't break the bank either. Now he's right next to Burgoon and a guy like Fratelli who's in the other wave. So I used him in certain spots. Wasn't someone where I clicked in and built around him per se, but I think he makes another viable play who is what we think is in the right side of the waves.
All right, one more before we get to our make the cut section.
Okay.
Kevin Twite, defending champ. Last two events against strong fields, he gained 1.17 total and 1.09 total in the BMW and the Northern Trust. So obviously found form after the WGC where he finished last and had the hole-in-one. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, wow.
Lost 4.7 strokes total that week and had a hole-in-one, so he still got the value. What do you make of him? He's made the cut all three times, but 62nd, 52nd first. Obviously, it's, the form is relatively similar to what he was coming in last week. Nobody's going to want to play him. He's in the right wave. I'm interested.
I have no problem with them. I thought actually that sometimes we see winners get priced up even more.
Hmm.
I didn't think it was that bad for his price. It's somewhat middling range when we look across the sites. And as you mentioned, he's in the right wave. Yeah, 13,700 on Fantasy Draft,
Nice.
7,700 on DraftKings. I have no problem with that. I don't love, I'm not a huge Kevin Tway guy in general. I think this course is fine. I'll mention Bud Cauley is right next to him,
Yeah.
and Bud Cauley for me is a core play. He has everything I want to see. He's making cuts, kind of just doing his thing. So that was the priority in that range. But if you
Sure.
told me you wanted to go to Kevin Tway, I would not have a lot of pushback on it.
Yeah, I think I just think that he makes sense looking at his last two starts. Obviously, he seemed to find it after the WGC, which went awful, just really bad. So, all right. So why don't we go a little rapid fire here, since we're about at the
Sure.
7,500 level where we kind of just go our make the cut. First guy that I like, and his two compadres have won the last 2 weeks, and it's Carlos Ortiz at 7,500. I wrote him up. And if you, of course, want our full player pool, both Ben and I, we put it up for our premium subscribers on Awesome Plus. And Carlos Ortiz is one of those guys from this week. I think he's in great form. I know he missed the cut 2 weeks ago, but that was because of his putter fixed last week. Everything looks pretty good.
He was, when you see the gain all four areas, that's always a big plus sign, obviously. And last week he was cooking, not just with the putter, not with the driver, not with the irons, not with the short game, just across the board. He's made the cut consistently here. No problem with Carlos Ortiz. Now, I had someone in our premium Slack check, we're talking about, I like someone like Bud Cauley over him, not just in betting, in life, in DFS. But Carlos Ortiz is someone, the swing season is the type of event where he's more apt to get in the mix. We've seen that with some, that's where we get some first time winners and guys who aren't maybe competing week in and week out. So I don't mind him, but this actually is a perfect, I don't want to say segue. The guy I want to bring up is, I guess, your nemesis, same price, Daniel Berger. So we haven't seen him yet.
How is he in the field? How is he playing golf right now?
I don't know how it works.
He didn't even. All right, so I'm facetiously a little bit asked. I know he came in the 125 to 150 category last year. His exemptions are up from the FedEx St. Jude, so he's done with that 2-year exemption garbage, thankfully. And he went back to the Corn Ferry Tour Finals and did not improve his status. So he gets into events like this. He'll get into FedEx St. Jude, but it's no longer an event, so he won't get into that. He'll get the past champion status of some event, I think, because of that, because that's turned into a WGC. I'm out though. I didn't think he was a great golfer before, clearly. And I think that his wrist injury actually really affected him and still is. And I know we saw some times where, at the John Deere, he played okay. In the 3M, he had a good stretch. I'm not – I would rather play Carlos Ortiz right now.
Okay.
Do I think he makes the cut, though? In this section, I do think he makes the cut. Is he in the right wave?
He's in the right wave.
Yeah, he makes the cut this week then.
Yeah. I like Berger this week. And, yeah, he hasn't shown the upside that I would traditionally be looking for. But I'll say he's made a lot of cuts.
Yeah,
he's gaining off the tee somewhat consistently. Now, the irons need to be better. There's no denying that. The putter, it does enough, and Poa is not a problem for him. So this is a guy that I think in terms of looking at this field, he is one of the players where I'm not sure where he truly belongs to be priced. I think you could argue that he's actually overpriced, and I think you could argue that he's way underpriced. It's just a matter of where is his game at and what do we really see for him. I'm going to try to buy low, 7,500, sign me up. Do I have to talk about Cameron Champ? I guess I do, right? He's in the right.
How about I'll give you one before we go to Cameron Champ. You can literally just give me a make or miss so we don't waste any more breath on this guy, because we have wasted a lot of breath. He lost 4 strokes on his approaches last week for a guy that's supposed to be a elite ball striker. That's Kyle Stanley. Does he make the cut or not? You can talk about him if you want to, but we waste too much breath on this guy.
He better make the cut because I'm using him. He is playing with Benny on, first guy off.
Yep.
Just Kyle Stanley is an anomaly in some ways. It's very difficult to understand why he's missing the cut at Sanderson Farms. You look, his irons were terrible. Now, he had gained in 8 straight tournaments with the irons. I'm willing to overlook that, but I don't know. He's a guy that really he frustrates me because he should be a lot better. And this
Way better.
Should be a slam dunk at 7,300 in this field in the right wave. But it's
really not. He is probably my most frustrating golfer that I continually roster, and that's due to the fact that he should be so much better than he is. The putting has kept him down. He was an elite ball striker. Obviously, we just talked about it. He lost 4 strokes putting, but I do think he rebounds this week. He hasn't lost back-to-back strokes on his approach. Well, you just said he had made an 8 straight. And then prior to that, he didn't have any 2 events except for the Genesis in Mexico, where he lost approaches. Yeah, I mean, way back, beginning of last year. So I'm willing to think that comes up. Now, the only question will be, can the putting match the field like it did the last week? And if it does, he'll easily get to the cut, quite easily. So now the third guy in that group, just because we obviously both agreed that we like betting on, you're playing a little Kyle Stanley. Does that mean that you got yourself to any Cameron Percy who played well last week, or just not ready for all that yet?
Not ready for all that yet. He did play well last week. 6,900 in this field. Okay, that came out of, it's a lethal combo. When he gained a ton of strokes with the approach and with the putter.
Yeah, it's lethal.
So you do that, it's going to be a good week. I'm just not sure where that came from. So I'll let other people, I don't even know if people are going to chase it, but I do want to say yesterday on the show with Fantasy Golf Man, I naturally said, Cam Champ, get out of here. I've warmed up to a little Cam Champ. It's a sad day, but I'm going to play him. He's in the right wave. We know how aggressive.
Who did this to you?
I don't know.
Did Tim himself do this to you? Or?
I got incepted. I don't know what happened.
All right.
We know he's going to gain like 6 strokes off the tee.
Yeah.
I still don't love it because I'm the game is so weak outside of that, but he's someone I needed on certain teams. I love the rest of the build, and I needed someone at that price range. I have some, so take that for what it's worth. I'm over the field on Cameron Champ in certain spots.
Yeah, I'm fine here with Cameron Champ as well. Like you said, he's going to gain 1,000,000 strokes off the tee. So at a 7,100-yard course or 72, if he could get his putter hot, yeah. I mean, what I do like also, we've seen him now be a little bit more consistent. We've seen now of BMW, he was pretty bad, but the Northern Trusty was good. Sanderson, he was good. John Deere was terrible. Actually, he's still probably a little consistent, but maybe caught a little bit of form last week. I don't love it, but I definitely will have some just because we know that there's upside and we know that there's Draftkings points upside as well, obviously. A guy that's been getting a ton of buzz, rightfully so, this week around is Doc Redman. 7,200 on DK this week. Back-to-back weeks where he's gained more than right at 2 weeks ago and 4 strokes gained on the approach last week. Does he make the cut, and are you playing him?
So I think he's going to be fine. The one thing about Doc Redman, and again, there's some evidence here, but he is a Southern guy. He's a Bermuda guy. How is he going to adjust to POA? I think the jury is still out. We're going to have to kind of learn that on the fly. There's a couple guys in this field. He's one of them. But Doc Redman seems to just be perpetually underpriced. He's a talented dude. We've seen him. Last year he almost won. He was impressive at Wells Fargo. He was impressive at the Open, and certainly in crazy conditions. So maybe win specialist, we'll see. I don't know about all that, but when you're gaining consistently tee to green like this, I'll take some stabs if I have to. No problem with him. Think he easily gets through to the weekend.
All right, we didn't talk about this guy, so I'm going to just jump back up to the top really quick. What are you doing with Iron Man in? The win is going to come eventually. We know that.
Oh, no doubt. It's just hard because there's so many guys. He's in the. There's nothing wrong with him at all. It's the guy has just been lights out, and it seems like even it's funny. Like Benny was like, oh my god, he's about to break through. Sanjay is was even closer. It was ridiculous. He's in the right tea time wave. I have trouble nailing down his game a little, and I guess that's what makes me a little apprehensive. His irons are not certainly not the overwhelming strength of his game. You could argue maybe it's even the weak link. The guy's been on fire with the putter. Going to a new surface is not the ideal situation. Now, Hoa could be great to him. It's just usually you want to keep the same surface, in my opinion, if you're rolling it great.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I mean, he's fine. He's pricey. Benny on for me, but when you're talking about the top tier, Sunjay Im makes a great play as well.
Yeah, 7 straight tournaments now gaining strokes with his putter. Last 2 have been ridiculously good. So I came across his name. He's playing with Jamie Lovemark and Michael Thompson. I don't know why he got priced with them. Being 30th in the FedEx Cup last year. And
do you have any insight on Lovemark? Because he is almost the min on DraftKings. He's 6,300. He's a California guy. Now we know he's been hurt and he's working his way back. Do you have any interest in using him as a pure punt?
Yeah, 2 starts back. Finally made the cut last week. His finishes here are not great. He is a little bit more wild off the tee than I like. I don't think I'm ready for Lovemark yet.
I got to him a little. It was the price that did it. It opens up a lot. Now, I don't know where his game. Kevin Chappell, certainly a different caliber player. There are some guys working their way back, and we don't know exactly where they are in the process. Now, Chappell, he's shooting 59. He's looking rusty at the same time. I don't know what to make of him either. I didn't really get there much this week per se, but Lovemark at almost the min, he did check a couple boxes that I was willing to take the stab at. I do have a couple more, and then we can get a hot take, and we'll bounce on out of here. What about Lefty? Are you going to play any Phil, or are you just letting other people do that?
No, until the DraftKings puts out PGA Tour champions, and he's one of the top 5 guys on that board. That's the next time I'll play.
Yeah, I'm with you. Not for me. Guy is just
he is turned into an incredible social media follow-up. I mean, totally honest, I think his Twitter is great. I love his fireside chats. Love everything about it. BMW, he looked at least a little better. 8,200 is at least a little bit exciting for me. But when you throw in, a guy that is clearly struggled with his game for a little bit of time, throw him in at 1245 in the worst of the conditions, supposedly. Put him up there with Patrick Cantlay, who's probably going to annoy the heck out of him with his pre-shot routine. Yeah, I guess I'd rather just find the $600 and get up to Griot, which we've talked about. $500 more to get up to Abraham Answer, who we didn't even talk about, who I like a lot. I think I just like Abraham Answer because he is so consistent off the tee. And I think that this week at the 8 a.m. tee time that he's got, I think he's got a really good shot at making the cut.
Answer, yeah. Yeah, Phil's doing those calf exercises, getting ready for the season, but I'm not sure I'm really going to get there too often. There's just too many other guys.
Yeah, let me ask you this though: if you're playing in the $8 this week, the $50K on DraftKings at 3% ownership, should somebody that's mass entering put in 6 lineups, 10 lineups to double the field?
If you're playing that many lineups, if you're truly MMEing someone like Phil, I don't mind putting in the portfolio here just because this is a course that he clearly knows and he's able to work out of trouble. Now, you want to weigh this. I guess this is what you should do. You have to ask this question first. Is Phil completely done? Now, if the answer to that you think is yes, then you're not playing him on any lineups. Do you think Phil is ever going to compete again? Because he won at the Pro-Am. He was okay at the Masters. Other than that, he was nowhere relevant anywhere. So,
anywhere. Like, legitimately, you look at the stat, it's really bad. I mean, nowhere did he even have a top 10 other than the win?
No. Well, early in the year, so I have it in front of me, he was 17th at Safeway. He was second at the Desert Classic, and he won the Pro-Am.
Yep.
Since that was in February. He had an 18th at the Masters, and then his next best finish was 37th. He was awful. He missed a bunch of cuts. See, that's what you're really weighing. I'm not. I'm not going to worry about Phil because if you don't play him, I'm not sure how often he's going to burn you, especially at low ownership.
Right now. Yeah.
You want to put him in the pool, again, fair enough, but I got other disturbing issues that I'm trying to deal with on my teams. In terms of real cheapies, did you really have anyone kind of in the real low range that you're willing to anchor a lineup with if you get aggressive up top?
Yeah, normally, I shouldn't say normally. A good amount of the time, I'll at least throw 2 or 3 names that I'm like, yeah, I feel good about down here. This week, I actually don't. I'm much more nervous than I have been to play some of these guys. Some of the names that I've liked, for example, like a guy like Chase Seifert, but he can't do anything except for putt. So we can't do that. Akshay Bhatia, the 17-year-old, he's just not ready. You look at his stats; he's just not ready. At least I don't think so. At least, I just don't find many guys down here that. Now, of course, some of them will make the cut. They have to. One name at 6,200 that absolutely bombs the ball. That was good, really good with his wedges last week. Wasn't good with anything else. He lost 2 strokes on the approach, but proximity to the hole, he was really good with his wedges. Sebastian Kaplan at 6,100. Didn't make the cut last week, 54th. Made the cut the week before, 64th. Bomber, so I do like that angle if he does remain on with the wedges, of course.
Who the hell is Sebastian Kaplan? That's a very shady name.
There you go. I had to do a creative player for you. So he's one of those Korn Ferry Tour grads. He was ranked, I think he was ranked 15th. Yeah, he was ranked 15th in driving distance or in the top 15 on that tour. So he's a bomber.
Find him. Oh, 60. Okay, 6,100.
Yeah, 6,100. Yep.
Oh, Chi Min. Yeah, that's good luck with all that. Hey, John Oda is down there.
Yeah, that was in the last take that I wanted to bring up with you. And you'll be joining me. I started this week a 2-series podcast for the Awesemo.com podcast where I just go over certain things. And on the second one, the 3 from the Tee podcast, I talk about the Monday qualifiers and field changes. And John Oda, for example, was one of them. I loved him. I thought he'd have a breeze getting through the Korn Ferry Tour last year, but could not find anything. Ended up 83rd there. So I don't know that he's quite ready, I'll be honest with you. But he has the talent. He just hasn't found it in the pro ranks. And we've seen that happen with a guy like Norman Jong 2 years ago. So, yeah, are you going to play him at all? Or is this a wait and see with Oda?
Wait and see. Again, truth be told, with football and a lot of things, I'm not playing nearly as many lineups as I normally do. I don't know if I'd get there anyway, though. So I think for him, it's more of a wait and see. You're right. He is a name that he's got some upside to him. I don't think the risk reward really balances out. And that's what we're really trying to do with these guys. You're looking for someone that can make a run, maybe get in, because the win equity is still not what we normally see up top. I do want to say real quick, because before we give our hot take, as we always say, chat, if you can hit the like button, it really would help us out. We appreciate it. We love the show. We love to bring you guys the free content. It makes a big difference. And of course, if you're not in premium Slack, sign on up, awesemo.com plus. We want you as part of the team. We got content, projections, articles, everything you want, all sorts of tools, not just for golf, but for all the sports. So we have all different packages from weekly to monthly to annually. Awesemo Plus, come and get it. Hot takes. I don't remember what I said last week. I don't even know if we had one because you derailed the show.
Totally derailed the show with Batman. And I'm guessing Batman has not come into play here because I have not heard anybody. I don't hear any laughing. It seems like we might be all set here, yeah?
I think no, we are all good in the hood.
Also one more thing I wanted to bring up. If you guys are on Twitter, Alex, Awesemo, our buddy here, our ringleader, if you will, put out a great tweet earlier in one of the Monday qualifiers. His name is Byron Meth.
Yeah,
and Alex was excited for Byron Meth to hopefully find himself a couple of PGA Tour starts. So people like Ben and I could say that we're on meth every week. Thought that was really funny. If you didn't come across that tweet today, or if you didn't know Byron Meth was in the field, he is field. So, all right, I'm ready for hot takes when you are.
Oh yeah, I will say before I get to mine, Charlie Hoffman is a name that I didn't mention. He's on the wrong side of the wave. Now, what did he do last week? He gained like 6 strokes putting on Friday. That's been the missing link. Once Matt Jones withdrew, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Stone dead anyway. Again, he's a talented guy. I don't know what to expect from his game. You can't bank on him putting. So take that for what it's worth. Mm-hmm. All right. What is my hot take?
I don't know how hot takey mine is because it's not like it's not that great. It covers 4 guys, and I think honestly it could end up being the 4th guy that ends up winning this for me, and it comes out of nowhere. But I got somebody from Asia taking this tournament down.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean that's
Matsuyama on Siwoo Kim, and I think honestly Siwoo Kim could get out of nowhere.
When Sun Kang wins this, you only get a half point.
That's right. That's very true. I forgot we got Sun Kang. We got a couple others in the field.
Okay.
Colin Morikawa, I guess, too, maybe.
Yeah, we got some dudes. You got KH Lee. Don't sleep on KH.
How about this? Anybody that could play for the President's Cup, which includes Sung Jae In, but I don't think it includes Ben Anand, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to go look at that. Is he U.S.? I thought he's a full U.S. citizen now and doesn't have dual citizenship. I'm going to go look.
I am going to say that I'm going to go with Daniel Berger. I like the spot for him. I'm going to say nothing too crazy. We're just warming up. It's the swing season. I'm going to say that he top 10s.
Okay.
I think he can get hot with the putter. He's in the right side of the wave, which, as Chad has pointed out, we try to bring you the weather because it's important that you know. But first of all, check the weather yourself. It doesn't lock till 10 a.m., so see what it says in the morning. And then make your decisions. I really don't recommend overhauling the player pool unless you see something that warrants that. I hate to see people do all their research and then they are like, oh, I changed everything because of the weather. Don't do that unless you're very comfortable doing it, and try to weigh it properly. It's just another piece of the puzzle. That's all it is.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm looking
at Jason on Twitter, not me. I don't have time for that.
Just straight up, it's totally fine. Just totally at me. I'm just looking up on Benny On because, as I mentioned, he's from South Korea. So, but I don't remember him ever serving that military service.
No, he hasn't.
Why? Or is he just doing it later in life, or did he get away with it because his parents both were medalists?
So, his parents both were Olympic. Now, I don't know what happened I know it. Again, we're going on a little tangent. When he was in Brazil, I believe if he medaled, he was out of it, which he did not. No. So I don't know if he has to go. Now, there has been some guys saying Bay went over, Sung Yo No went over. I don't know if he has to go. I've heard murmurs of that, whispers. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, Sung Jae In and Siwoo Kim are right in that same conversation. Again, another conversation another time. Just was curious on that. So I guess I'll consider Ben on because it's still on his official page. It says from South Korea, so he counts in my somebody winning from Asia.
Absolutely. Last thing before we bounce out, will Tony Romo finish dead last?
Yes, absolutely. I will bet that every time. Yeah. No doubt about it. He has no chance of making the cut. He's scheduled to work on Sunday, not for the PGA Tour.
It's all very accurate. We're going to bounce on out of here. As always, chat, we really appreciate you. If you have any questions, you find us in Slack. You find us on Twitter. Thanks for hanging out with us on Wednesday. It's just getting started. We will be back next week. Another tournament, all good things. So good luck, everyone. And again, we will see you next week.